Hello guys, welcome back to the Team Him channel. Today I'm bringing you my Royal Paladin Blasters premium deck profile. I know some people saw the last video we posted up of Blasters versus Prisms. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. It's a really cool fight that me and Jesse had. A really crazy ending to it. And some of y'all were asking for the deck profile for the deck, so here I am with the deck you guys wanted to see. I will say that I have been changing a few ratios here and there, trying out different cards. So if there's anything else that I would suggest maybe trying out or anything, I'll definitely make a mention of it. And let me just say this now. Thank you so much, guys, for all your support for the channel. Really does mean a lot to me. It really does. So thank you. And if you have any questions regarding the deck, please post it in the comments down below, and I'll definitely be looking at that and answering any questions. So without further ado, let's get into the deck. So we're gonna go start with the grade 3s, which as you can see is the main man himself, Mr. MLB. We run him as a 4 of. He is the main grade 3 of the deck. He is the one you want to ride, be on at all times. In case you don't know what he does, if Blaster Blade and Blaster Dark are in your soul, he is a permanent 18k base on both players' turns. And on the Vanguard circle, he is an extra drive and an extra crit. So he'll always be an 18k triple drive with the crit Vanguard. And then his other skills, when he attacks, he can absorb any 2 rear guards into the soul to create 2 force markers anywhere on the field. So he's your main gift generator as well. Solid boss. I love blasters, as anyone who knows me. I love playing blasters, especially for Royal Paladin. And this is like one of my main favorite units to go into. When he was created in V, I was so excited. And I still play him to this day, and he's a lot of fun, for sure. And then I know some people have seen it, the one spicy Blaster Blade Exceed, and some people have asked me why I run this. Well, he's a blaster first of all, so he's really important for the blaster theme of the deck, especially with the grade 2 promo that I'll be discussing a little bit later. He also has an on-stride skill, depending what stride goes on top of him. And he also can retire any grade 1 or greater on your opponent's side of the field, so you can call him to van, or you can ride him, call him to rear, counterblast 1 to retire any pesky rear guard that your opponent may have. His on stride though is when he's stridden over by a unit with Saver in its card name, you can counterblast 1 and search for a card with Blaster Blade in its card name from your deck and add it to your hand. So if I was running more copies of him, I could get another copy of him. He's mainly here so I can search for the boy right here and always have one ready to go. I never want to ride this. I know if you've seen the video again, you saw that I had no choice, but he's not that bad to ride on. I just don't, if I do ride him, I don't want to be stuck on him for too long. And in case you're wondering why I don't have an SP1, it's coming in the mail, guys. Don't worry, we're working on it. But until then, I had this cool hot stamp one from back in the day of when the Blaster Blade Legend deck came out, and he's been a solid target in the deck. I love it. So definitely would recommend running at least one. You'd be surprised how much the retire comes into effect. The call retire grade 1 or greater. You'd be surprised. So that's all the 3s. We only run 5 3s because we run a lot of grade 2s. And we'll start off with the main man, Mr. Blaster Blade himself. I chose to run the overdress version because I feel it's the best one of all of them. The V-Arrow one is nice to get the crit, but you have to commit a whole board because the V one says you have to have 4 other rear guards, if I'm not mistaken, for him to get the crit. I don't want to do that. I'd rather just ride this one and be able to counterblast, retire whatever I want. Or if I can't retire, which is the main thing, I get to draw a card. So any opponent that doesn't commit any rear guards, when I ride up to grade 2, I can just go boop, counterblast, and draw. So he replaces the card that was in my hand. On rear guard, he has his original skill from back in the day, which is counterblast 1 to retire a grade 2 or greater on your opponent's field. So he is the main win con of the deck, especially with a certain critical trigger I'll discuss a little bit later. The whole deck is basically revolved around this guy. So because MLB wants him in the soul, Blaster Blade Exceed can search for him. Certain other units work really well with him as well. He's just a solid guy. That's how we need to get the 4 SPs, you know. Put it out there. So as you can tell, love blasters. And then we run 2 of the Blaster Dart. I prefer this one because on Vanguard, he can twin drive as long as your opponent has no rear guards. So again, if you don't have him to ride, but you can ride into him, your opponent has no rear guards, you can discard a card, which preferably going second, you would want to discard this, the quick shield, to get that twin drive. His other skills, when he's placed on Vanguard rear, you can counterblast 1, your opponent retires any of their rear guards of their choice. So yeah, it's kind of restricted that your opponent gets to choose. However, because your opponent gets to choose, he can basically retire any rear guard. Versus him on rear guard circle, he can only retire 2 or greater. So he's a little more restrictive on his retiring. With this guy, he can basically retire anything. So yeah, so reason why I don't run 3 to 4 of this guy, when I was trying out 4, I would always just draw too many copies of him. And there's no really other card in the deck that works with him like they do with Blaster Blade. So I've been cutting him down more and more, and 2 has been a solid number for me. It's been working quite well. If you feel like that's too risky because maybe they can both get damaged and you want to run a 3rd, you can. I'm just letting you know now that if you do that, more than likely you'll be seeing way too many of these in your hand. So I just run the 2 and it's been working. And now for the promo I mentioned earlier, this card came out in Overdress, and oh my goodness, this card does so much for the deck. Knight of Inheritance, Emmeline. So in case you don't know what she does, when she's placed on the rear guard from hand, you can Soul Blast 1, you check top 5, look for a unit with Blaster in its card name, and you can either call it to rear or you can add it to your hand. If you choose to add it to your hand, you discard 1. So I mainly use her to search out my grade 3. As you saw, since I have a low count of 3s, I want to be able to search for him any way I can. So her main target is to search for him. If I already have him in hand, what I like to do is try to search for one of these bad boys, the blade or the dart, and call it to rear guard circle, maybe in the back, and have it ready to go for when I go into MLB next turn. She also can search for another grade 2 blaster that I'll talk about after her, and she's just all around really good for that. She's able to build a board. If not, search for a piece and add it to your hand. Very, very important card in the deck. I cannot run her less than 4 of. Her other skill that also makes her really good is when your other blaster attacks, she gets +5. It's not once per turn, so whenever you would keep multi-attacking with your blasters on rear, she just keeps pumping up, pumping up, pumping up. And she includes the Vanguard swing too. So you can swing with your rear blaster, swing with your Vanguard, and she'll get +10 at least. So very solid card, very much worth getting if you want to play blasters in premium. Then another blaster that she searches for that I run as a 2 of is Blaster Blade Seeker. So I never use his first skill, so I'm not even going to bother really reading that first skill. It's the second skill is the reason why we run it. So his second skill is at the end of the battle, this unit attack. If you did not ride this turn, you can put it on the bottom of your deck to draw. So he's a draw target in the deck. Like say once I ride up to MLB, turn 4 onward when I start just striding, I can call him to rear with say Emmeline or another card and just get a free draw off of it. What I like to do is I'll stride into say Crystal Luster, call him to rear, and then after I do all my swings, he'll be the last swing to keep that guard restrict, and then put him on the bottom of the deck to draw 1 additional card. So I can have 1 extra card to use as guard against my opponent's next turn. So I've tried, you can have him as a 1 of. He's really just in here again for that draw. So if you want to knock him down to 1 or just remove him altogether for another card, you definitely can. I was actually thinking about maybe trying out Blaster Rapier, if I remember her correctly. That says when she attacks, you can look at the top card of your deck and put it on top or bottom. So that was another option I had instead of that. So if you want to try that out, you can. Definitely go nuts and try it. And then another grade 2 I run is 3 Lose. I was running him as a 4 of, but because he was as a 4 of, I saw him way too much, like he would clog my hand. So I knocked him down to 3, so that way I wouldn't be seeing him like too much. I want to see him, but not excessively, if that makes sense. So I put him down as a 3 of, and he's been working quite well as a 3 of. Which also lets me open up to trying out other units, other ratios as well. In case you don't know what he does, when this unit's boosted by a unit named Blaster Friend Barkle, which is a grade 1, or Floral Paladin Flogel, which is a critical trigger. To the end of the turn, he gets 3k, and the red text that at the end of his battle, you can put him into Soul. Search your deck for a grade 2 with Blaster in its card name, call it to rear, and it gets +3. So I mainly use him to search out one of these two bad boys that I'm missing. So for example, if I already have Blade in hand, I'll use him to search out Dark so I can absorb them with MLB, or vice versa. If I already have Dark but I haven't seen him yet, I can search for him. And those turns that I was saying earlier where you're already striding and doing your multi-attacks, you can go into him and then swing with him and then put him on the bottom of the deck to draw, since you most likely haven't ridden that turn. So he's just a very versatile grade 2, definitely warranted in a Royal Paladin Blaster deck. And then the last two grade 2s I'm running are this card, the Rising Knight Belta. Did I say that right? I believe so. All right. And so what she does is at the end of the battle, she attacked the Vanguard. So her and Lou both have to attack a Vanguard to do their skills. You Soul Blast 1, return any number of blasters on rear guard or drop zone to your deck. And then you shuffle. If you return 3 or more cards, she goes to Soul and draw 2. So she can recycle all your Blaster Blades that gets retired during the game. Because you'll be calling out Blaster Blade quite a bit to do the multi-attacks, like with Lou or with Flogel that I'll be discussing a bit later. So I was having a problem of him always going to the drop, and that was it. There was no real way to get him back. So I was looking through my extra bulk and I found this card and I thought, you know what, I'll give it a try. Something to be able to recycle Blaster Blade, or if I need to, Blaster Dark or Seeker, or because she's not restricted to any grades, I can return like maybe MLB or Xseed or Blaster Friend Barkle and be able to get an extra 2 cards out of it. And because she puts herself the soul, she recuperates the Soul Blast that she used. So I've been liking it a lot. Would I want to keep her for long term? Maybe not as a 2 of. Maybe just as a 1 of, because again, she's only in here just for like the very late game once you've been losing all your blasters. But if I were to take her down to 1, I would replace this card with maybe another blaster, or as you'll see, I'm not running Elementaria. Spoiler alert. So I would take 1 out to put in Elementaria, the Blitz Order PG. And yeah, that's what I would change her out for. But so far, I've been liking it as a 2, but I can definitely see this being knocked down to 1 or not at all in the deck. Again, because it's a late game card. So that's grade 2s. Then we'll go to grade 1s. And of course, we'll start out with Best Boy, Blaster Friend Barkle. So he's a grade 1 that lets you countercharge in the deck if Blaster Blade is called in the same column as him. So he's your main countercharger in the deck. He's the one that'll get you some of your resources back. Quick little thing you can do with him, and this is thanks to Blaster, Dark, Revenger, and Doraint ruling. You can put him like that in the same column, and then if you call Blaster Blade over, these 2 will trigger to countercharge 2, and then this will go away. So that's like one little neat thing you can do with it. He does have Blaster in the name, so you can return him with, like I said, with her back to the deck. Or you can search him out with Emmeline, the grade 2 promo to rear. So very good card, definitely as a 4 of. Can't say really much else besides that. And then other Best Boy, our other main searcher, is Swingle Brave, the grade 1. So when his attack or the attack he boosted hits a Vanguard, you can look at 7 cards, reveal a card with Blaster from among them, and add it to hand and then shuffle. So again, he's just like, he facilitates the same thing as Emmeline, but instead of a Soul Blast, he has to hit. So it's kind of telling your opponent that, and in Premium, this really matters. If you want the damage, I'll give it to you, but you have to let me search. And that's what I really like. He's a guard eater. That's how I see him. Because most people I've played against don't really want him to hit, because they don't want me to search for obviously my pieces and get ready to go for later on. So I definitely like riding him as a grade 1 if I'm going second, or if I'm going first. On my grade 2 onward, I like to have at least 1 behind the Vanguard, preferably 1 behind Van and 1 on the other rear, so that way, you know, more on hit pressure. Definitely would run him as a 4 of. I don't see why you would not, but that's just my opinion. But so 4 of those. And then I'm trying out this promo, this grade 1, Replenish Mage. So he has 2 skills. The second one, when he's rode upon by a blaster on Vanguard Circle, he can be called to rear, so he kind of has like the old Forerunner effect. So if you ride him as grade 1 and then say you ride any grade 2 blaster, he just pops out and goes boop right here. And his first skill is when your grade 3 or greater Vanguard attacks, you can counterblast 1 and call a grade 2 or greater blaster from your soul to rear to an open rearguard circle. Very important to remember that. I've been trying him out just to try and promote more multi-attack in the deck, just to give more and more pressure for it. And he's had his moments where he was really good, and then there were just other times where I wish he was a different card. I've actually been thinking about, again for Elementaria, thinking about knocking him down to 2 and put in the PG Elementaria. I've also been thinking about maybe running like 1 extra blaster instead of running him as a 3 of, like maybe Blaster Javelin, Blaster Dagger, or Blaster Javelin for Royals. And besides that, the moments that he has been worked out for me is those moments where, say, I have a Flogel on rear, and then I have a Blaster Blade in soul. I can absorb with MLB the Blaster Blade, and then do his skill to call out the Blaster Blade. So I can get the 2 markers off of him, and then get the counter blast to call back out the Blaster, which will become outstanding. That's the main thing that I like about these two, is that they're designed to work together in that you can swing with him first, absorb your rear guards, and then use him to call out one of the units that you absorb, or vice versa. If you need an extra rear guard to absorb to get the 2 markers, you can do him first, call out the blaster, and then do his skill and reabsorb that blaster, and then maybe him or another unit to get that extra marker that you really need. What I really liked about him was there was one game where I had him on rear. I had the 2 Blaster Blade and Darkened Soul, and I had another one of him on rear guard. So what I did, I swung with the Vanguard MLB, absorbed the MLB that was on rear, and then I did his skill to call him back out of the soul, so that way he can swing again with his crit. Because do remember that he has a permanent crit on Vanguard or rear guard, and then it's on the Vanguard circle. He's an 18k base with the extra drive. But on Vanguard and rear, he has that crit. So you can utilize that crit to your advantage if you have him on rear. So that was a really cool interaction between these two that I liked. So that's honestly why I keep him in here for interactions like that. But what would I run instead of, if I had to take this out completely for another unit, like I said, Blaster Javelin, Blaster Dagger, or if you really, really want to, you can run Sisyphus as well. The top 5 get a grade 3 searcher. I was originally running him, but I took him out to put him in, and it's been the same feeling both ways for me. And then we go to triggers. So we're just going to start out with the crits. So we have 3 of the Stride Fodder crit, and then 4 of Mrs. Flogel. So she's one of the key finishers in the deck, because she's the one that allows you to keep restanding your Blaster Blade on rear. So what she does is, at the end of the battle that this unit boosts, at the end of the battle that your Blaster Blade attack the Vanguard, you can counterblast 1, and if you do, you stand up the Blaster Blade, put her back in the deck, and shuffle. So you can boost Lou with her, get out the Blaster Blade, and then Blaster Blade will swing once, her skill will stand him back up, and then put herself back in the deck. So that's why she's one of the key cards in the deck, and I run her as a 4-of. She is definitely my main win con in this deck, besides the Crystal Luster, which everybody loves and hates. So definitely a 4 of her, and then 3 of the crit, so we run a total of 7 crits. And then we also run 4 of the Draw PG. Again, not running Elementaria in this version. If I did put in Elementaria, it would be 1 of these out, which would leave me room for 1 extra Stride crit. But so far, I've been liking the 4 draws. This deck is very much combo piece reliant, so extra draws is nice. And that's really what's prevented me from really just putting Elementaria into here and just running the straight up 4 draws. And then for heals, we run the 4 Heal Guardians. There is an argument to run Sisyphus in the deck instead of this guy, just to be able to search for this, since this is a grade 3. But honestly, because of how much filtering this deck does and how much searching it does, you'll probably see one of these pretty early on, or like throughout the game. So I'm not too concerned. And we run the 4 Heal Guardian so we can make it to grade 3 because of the defensive abilities of the Heal Guardian. So that's why we run the 4. And then of course the OT, Keter. Again, combo. This deck is very combo piece reliant. We want to see extra cards, extra draws. That's why I run this, so that way I can drive check with rears, get extra pieces to hand, get extra shield to hand. And we also, for the starter, we run the nice hot stamp from Worlds. Mr. Barkle right here, B starter, very nice. And we'll go with the strides. So we run 4 Crystal Lusters. I don't think I really need to explain what this guy does. If you play Premium, you pretty much know what this guy does. But just the gist of it, he can copy the hard abilities that you stride on. So he can copy mainly MLB in this deck and all his abilities. And he also has the guard restrict that if you have 3 grade 2 or greater units, you can, every time you swing, your opponent has to drop 3 to guard him if they're guarding from hand. G-guards get around it, but definitely him combined with cards like Lou or Blaster Blade with Flogel, those extra pokes and attacks makes his guard restrict really hurt. So yeah, that's Crystal Luster. Then I run the 1 Eulogius. I don't know if I said his name right. I hope I did. I really like this card actually. He's usually my first stride. His ability, if you don't know, when he attacks, you can counterblast 1 and flip a G unit, and you draw 1 for each of your rear guards, and then you call from hand equal to the number of cards you drew. So if you have 3 rear guards, you draw 3 cards, and then you call 3 since you drew 3. And then if you, after you call your 3 or however many you call, if you have 5 rear guards, he generates a force marker. So there are games where I'll go first, I'll ride into the MLB. No, I'm sorry, I'll go second, ride up to MLB, I get first stride, but I don't have the blasters. I don't have any of the combo pieces to set up for him. So going into Crystal Luster is really not the play. So for my first stride, I like going into him so I can be able to draw equal to the number of rears, then build a board, get an extra marker. So that way, after I'm done with my turn, I'll have the 1 marker from riding him and then the 1 from him. So it sets up those, lets me draw into my extra pieces that I need. And it's just, overall, just a really solid stride, I think. I know not a lot of people like him. I talked to other Royal Paladin friends of mine locally, and they're not the biggest fan, but I definitely recommend running the 1 and trying it as your first stride, guys. You would be surprised how well he works. And then for my other strides, I run 2 the Alfred Holy Saver. He's one of the cards that you can use to stride onto the Blaster Blade Exceed if you're stuck on him, to be able to search your Blaster Blades. He allows you to give drive checks to your rear guard Blaster Blade, twin drive specifically, so you can be on the grade 2 on rear, for example, and his skill will give him twin drive. So you can go swing, twin drive. If you have the Flogel, he'll stand back up, but the twin drive is only for this first swing if you do his skill. Just remember that. But the fact that you're able to just go swing, twin drive, reset with the Flogel, and then swing triple drive, and just go off like that and get extra drives is really nice. I have him as a finisher mainly. I hardly ever go into it, honestly, but the fact that the option is there is nice, and that's what I like. I like having the options. So I run a 2 of, and then I run 2 Ganslot Peace Savers. He's mainly a flip target. The main skill I use for him is on rear guard circle. I'm sorry, on face up in the G zone. All your Blaster Blade named cards on rear guard get continuous resist. So he allows your Blaster Blades to go around any annoying pesky G guards that would try to remove them, like Denial Griffin for Kagro as a prime example. He is also a saver, as you can see. So you can, again, if you're stuck on Blaster Blade, you can stride him onto him, get your Blaster Blade, grade 2. On Vanguard Circle, when he swings, he quad drives and he counter charges, and if you have a face-up G unit, he gets an extra crit as well. So he's just a free, very generic stride for blasters. So definitely run him as a. Most people run him as a 1 of. I like him as a 2, just for the option of if I have to stride into it because I'm on him, I can definitely have it. There are times where I've stridden into him versus going into Crystal Luster just because I don't have the field set up for it. I don't have the pieces to support Crystal Luster. I don't have enough pieces to support Eulogius, so I'll just go into him just a free quad counter charge. Who doesn't like free? So I run that. And then I run the 1 Progenitor Dragon. This was given to me by my good friend and teammate Ronald. Shout outs to him. Beautiful card. Look at that. Congratulations, man. Love it. I hardly ever go into this, guys. I hardly ever do. But the few times that I have has really come in handy, especially in my deck since I don't run that many 3s. And as you can see, I don't have that many stride fodders. A stride that says face up in G zone, you're allowed to stride for free is really nice. And depending on the game state, if I can, I'll go into this first stride just to set up for the rest of the game. And I can guard however I want and still be able to stride. That's mainly what I use him for. Besides that, he just sits in the G zone looking pretty. I know there's going to be a question of, have I ever actually used this skill? There have been quite a few games I actually have used this skill because my hand is nothing but normal units. So if I'm going to call the normal units out anyway, I might as well draw 3 for it. So those are the times I use his skill. But if my hand is mixed of defensive cards with pieces, I don't do it. It's only when my hand's full of normal units that I go, okay, if I'm going to do it anyway, might as well get something for it. So that. And then for the G zone, the rest of the G zone are the G guards. So it's a bunch of 1-ofs. So the first one is Masco. He's just a free flip a G guard. He gets 10k shield. You have a front row rear guard. But he has to be GB1 to do it, so be careful and remember that. He's just a solid free G guard. That's why I run it. One of the main G guards I run is Senor Marin right here. I like him because you can Soul Blast 1 to search out any grade 1 or greater from your deck and call it to Guardian Circle, and he gives an extra 5k shield. So he promotes deck thinning. It also can work in conjunction with this grade 2 I was talking about earlier. So if you say have her in your hands, you can G-Guard into this, Soul Blast a Blaster, and prepare the drop zone for her. That's a neat little trick you can do as well. Most people run Marin to search out like grade 1 PGs, and so you can PG when your opponent's attacking. I was doing that for a little bit. I was running the Jewel Knight Iseult grade 1 PG for a long while, but in the end, I would mostly draw my grade 1 PG, so I would never be able to combine it with this as much as I would like. So that's why I just took it out. That was just my luck with it, but definitely that's another thing you can do. Summon PGs, the old ones that don't care where they're called from, to PG an opponent's attack. But I mainly use Marin just to deck thin the deck, 1 more card, extra shield as well, especially if it's like a unit I don't really need to see anymore. So that. And then we have Iseult, the G-Guard. Big shield if you have a full field and you're playing against a deck that doesn't really mess with your field. Counterblast 1, placed on Guardian Circle. She gets 5k shield for every rear guard you have. And most of these G-Guards, by the way, I'm sure if you've noticed, say if the Vanguard's Alfred or Blaster. Since this is a Blaster deck, it'll always pop off. So no worries about that. So yeah, that's what I use her for. Big shield for Counterblast. As long as I'm not playing against a deck that field controls. And then I'm trying out this G-Guard, the Faithful Sacred Staff. Not the biggest fan of it, but I do see its uses. You can choose a grade 2 unit to give 10k shield, and then the ability of when it intercepts, Counterblast Soul Blast to PG. There have only been a couple games where that red text did come in clutch, but for the most part, I usually use her just to give an intercept and extra shield, so I can just go G-Guard. Let's say she's on the rear, give her 10, and then intercept with the G-Guard. So it becomes a 30k shield total. That's the main use I have for her, which it helps. It definitely helps. I think she works better with Altmile, in my opinion, but she does have her uses in Blasters as well, in any other Royal deck. And then the last 2 G-Guards are the Cray Elementals. We have Dismal that protects a rear guard. Also has resist, so it can't really be broken through on the Guardian Circle by an effect, Deep Lease. And again, protects the rear guard from being hit for the remainder of the game. for the remainder of that turn. My bad. If it was for the whole game, man. So definitely a one of, especially in decks like this that your grade 2, like Blaster Blade is really important and you want to protect it, so you can go G-Guard, target, protect it from being hit. So, and then the other one is Rack Tome, just a filter card. When played, draw 1, discard 1. So it's a really nice little filter card. Do note that the cost is to discard first and then you get to draw. So most of those type of effects let you draw first then discard. This one says for the cost you have to discard and then you can draw. So just remember that. All right, so that was my Blaster premium deck profile that I'm working with right now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it gave you some ideas to try out. That's the main point of these deck profiles for me. Not to tell anybody how to build a deck, not to tell anybody how they should build it, but just, just to give suggestions, some cards that maybe you haven't thought of, maybe hasn't crossed your mind. So again, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Again, hopefully you like this type of content. Let me know what other deck profiles or what other types of deck matches you want. We are currently working on a matchup video of Premium Shadow Paladin Phantom Blaster Overlord. Given to us by Vanguard Potential. I hope I said that right. Thank you so much for sending that deck list to us. We are definitely working on it right now to record a fight match with it. So if you guys have any other fight matches that you would like to see on the channel, let us know. And if we can build it, we'll build it and we'll record a match and see how it goes. We're very open to deck ideas for sure. We just want to improve on the game. We just want to expand our horizons. And I feel that's definitely one of the best ways to do it. Just try different decks that we just haven't thought of, or deck lists we haven't thought of, especially in premium with so many cards in the pool. It's just surprising to see what people put together. But with that, guys, y'all take care and have a great rest of your day.